I want to remind everyone here in our nation's capital, especially in Congress, that this is not the time for politics, endless partisan investigations. Here we go again. Have already done extraordinary damage to our country in recent years. You see what happens. It's witch hunt after witch hunt after witch hunt. And in the end, the people doing the witch hunt have been losing, and they've been losing by a lot. It's not any time for witch hunts. It's time to get this enemy defeated. Conducting these partisan investigations in the middle of a pandemic is a really big waste of vital resources, time, attention, and we want to fight for American lives, not waste time and build up my poll numbers, because that's all they're doing, because everyone knows it's ridiculous. So we want to focus on the people of this country, even the people of the world. We're going to be able to help them, because right now, as an example, we're building so many ventilators. Very, very hard to build.
The thing about Trump and Republicans already warning Democrats not to open any investigations about the federal government's response to this crisis is that when 3 Americans tragically died in Benghazi, the GOP held 33 hearings, had Hillary Clinton testify for 11 hours, and they launched a select committee investigation that lasted over 2 years and cost $7 million that still found no wrongdoing. In this crisis, we're expected to lose over 100,000 Americans as a direct result of Trump's negligence, and yet somehow there's supposed to be zero accountability? Give me a break. Also, I should note that there is a fundamental flaw in Trump's strategy of likening any investigation of his coronavirus response to impeachment of the Russia scandal, in that both of those investigations were 100% warranted. So Trump can do what he does and try to will into existence this idea that those probes were illegitimate, but no one operating on the facts agrees with him. So in actuality, him claiming that the coronavirus response is akin to those other scandals is a tacit acknowledgement that what we're seeing is yet again another administration failure that unquestionably deserves scrutiny and consequences. And it seems that that's exactly what's going to happen, as Speaker Pelosi has announced the formation of a select committee to oversee the Trump administration's distribution of over $2 trillion in coronavirus relief funds over the next several months. Now, you may or may not know that written into the relief package were certain conditions that corporations needed to meet in order to receive any of the $500 billion in federal funds set aside for businesses, including no buybacks, no dividend payments, and limits on executive salary raises. But the very next section allowed the Treasury Secretary to unilaterally waive those requirements and essentially dole out federal funds with no strings attached. And so because this is the Trump era and we are essentially guaranteed to see the White House abuse the blank check they've been given by rewarding administration officials' friends and donors and family members, suddenly this select committee becomes all the more necessary. Now, unsurprisingly, Republicans have already pushed back against this committee, but their complaints would carry just a little more weight if this administration hadn't already shown itself to be incapable of implementing any program without devolving into a pit of corruption. Remember when the federal government awarded a $300 million no-bid contract to repair Puerto Rico's electrical grid after being destroyed by Hurricane Maria to a tiny Montana firm that had just 2 employees and also just so happened to be located in then Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke's small Montana hometown? So when Republicans cry out about how this kind of committee is a waste of resources, they might be right, but this administration's inability to not be corrupt makes it necessary. So the GOP can take it up with the White House if they're upset with the guardrails that now need to be put in place. But what's already showing to draw the ire of Republicans is that House Democrats have also called for a panel modeled after the 9/11 Commission that would do a comprehensive review of the origins of the coronavirus outbreak in the US and whether government failures contributed to the crisis. It would be a 25-member commission with sweeping authority to conduct a comprehensive 18-month investigation. And that is undoubtedly what will keep Trump up at night. Because much like the Russia investigation, much like the Ukraine investigation, Trump has a lot to fear. And that's because under his leadership, while we should have been preparing for the outbreak, Trump spent literal weeks downplaying the virus. He pretended it was contained and said the cases would soon be down to 0 and suggested people could still show up to work. He catered solely to the stock market. His talking points were repeated by Republican governors and lawmakers and conservative media, which encouraged people to pack into restaurants and bars. He failed to invoke the Defense Production Act, leading to a massive shortage in equipment across the entire United States. Not only that, the United States even donated 17.8 tons of medical supplies to China, including masks and respirators, 3 weeks after the first case was reported in the United States. I could go on, but the point is that his failure to actually lead during this crisis is the reason why we're now expecting to see hundreds of thousands of Americans die. It's why we're unable to liken ourselves to countries like South Korea, which had its first case on the same day as us, only to then take the appropriate steps to flatten their curve at under 10,000 cases and only 165 deaths, while we currently have 250,000 cases and over 6,000 deaths. That's not an accident. It is the direct result of a catastrophic failure of leadership at the top. So Trump can pound his fists and issue warnings and lob threats, but he doesn't get to make the rules. And despite what he may think, neither he nor anyone else in his administration is above the law.